But since we're here talking about the fight for reproductive freedom, she just wanted me to remind you all to fight for it. To actually fight for it. And the one way we can fight for it is by helping her become the next president of the United States. Because as your governor said a day or two ago, time is a hazy concept for me now, if we win here in North Carolina, we got a really good chance of winning this election. So you can make the difference right here, right here. So we are talking about reproductive freedom, the fight for reproductive freedom. And I just want to take us back a little over two and a half years ago or so. My phone rings. It's my wife, the Vice President, soon to be President. She was actually on Air Force 2, which will soon to be Air Force 1. But at that point, June of 2022, I had never actually heard her more upset. And she called to say, Dougie, they actually did it. They actually did it. And that was the moment that I found out that the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade. Got it right from her. Literally immediately after that, I got a text from Ella. And I don't hear from her all the time. Ella, please text me more. But at that point, she was furious as well. She was 23 at the time. She's 25 now. And she texted me, I wrote it down, horrible, horrible, horrible day. Time to fight. I'm angry, and I don't want to stand by silently. You need to do something about this. This is Ella. But then, some of you might have met my mother at the convention. She's 83 now, but she was 81 at the time. I heard from her right after I heard from Ella. Now I do hear from my mom all the time, so this is not, but not about this. And she said essentially the same thing. Now remember, she was 81 2 years ago, which meant back in the 60s and early 70s, she was one of those women out there fighting for equal rights, fighting for reproductive freedom. And people like my mother thought that this was something they'd never have to talk about again, something that they thought was locked in. And this is why my mother was so upset. So here my wife as vice president, who is so infuriated because, remember, she was on the Senate Judiciary Committee. And I think two of the three Supreme Court justices that Trump appointed for the sole reason of overturning Roe v. Wade looked at her when she was on that committee, when they were going through the nomination process. And you remember what they said? Oh, we will uphold precedent. We will honor stare decisis. See how that went? So I heard from my mother, and she literally said, honey, you need to do something about this. So 2.5 years of doing something about this, we are now here today on an issue that is so much worse than we all could have imagined. I mean, maybe they imagined it because remember Trump said women should be punished when he was running in 2016? You've heard from, what's-his-face, the little sidekick? J.D. Vance, right. You know, just no abortion, no exceptions for rape or incest. Can you imagine being a person like him to feel that way when a woman who's been subject to a violent crime, rape or incest, a violent crime, a violation, and then this character thinks that that person, especially if it's like a child, should have no agency over what happens to their body next? That's just immoral. That's wrong. And that's who they are. So that's why this election is what Kamala said at the convention, where this is not only the most important election in our collective lifetimes, but in the lifetime of our nation. This really is. It's not hyperbole. It's true. And that's what this bus tour of reproductive freedom is all about, is to remind Americans what's actually at stake in this election